This is Joy News Prime.
This is Joy News Prime right here on Joy News on Multi TV. The bulletin is available around the world and also available across Europe on ABN television. Coming up, 2 police officers arrested as investigations into major recruitment scam continue. We've been speaking to one of the victims. Former First Lady Nana Konadu Agyemang-Rawlings calls for grassroots participation in the governance system so leadership can be held accountable. Would meet the 20 senior high school students who received the President's Independence Day Award. Meanwhile, the Ghana Meteorological Agency is assuring a rain-free Independence Parade across the country tomorrow. And 22-year-old university student said to be undergoing spiritual deliverance falls to her death from the 4th floor of one of the buildings on campus. We also have business, sports and international news all in the next 60 minutes too. Stay tuned. Now, our first story, 2 police officers are among those arrested in connection with the recent recruitment scam. 7 people in all have so far been arrested as part of investigations into the case. Derek Ekol-Sam has more.
Apart from the 2 police officers, the other suspects include a pastor and a radio presenter. Those behind the scam defrauded hundreds of people nationwide who showed up at police depots this past weekend for the start of their training, only to learn that they had been conned. Director of Police Public Affairs, DCOP David Ampabinyin, addressed the media during a parade of some of the suspects.
We have not started any enlistment. When the time comes for the enlistment to be made, we will also give you all the processes and the forms, etc., where you can get access to them. But as of now, we are not going to do any enlistment. Now. Previously, they used to buy the forms at the post office. Yeah, but it doesn't follow that our next enlistment, we are going to go to the post office to buy forms. So at any particular time that we are ready to start the enlistment, we will direct you as to where to get access to the form.
The police service has set up a task force to ensure that all those behind the scam are brought to book. That task force is headed by the commandant of the police academy, DCOP Bright Odro.
The suspect in whose custody some documents were found is here right with us here. He is being processed, he is being investigated. We will have to do a lot on him to be able to get further proof of whoever involved, especially the senior officer who was mentioned. We are yet to start his case and then come out with proof or otherwise of the involvement of that senior officer who was mentioned yesterday.
In the meantime, to avoid a recurrence of the recruitment scam, an embargo has been placed on the sale of recruitment forms to prospective police personnel.
Now, one of the victims of the recent police recruitment scam has told Joy News in an exclusive interview she paid 5,000 Ghana cedis into the bank account of the woman police describes as a main brain behind the scam. According to the victim, some of her own friends who are graduate applicants paid as much as 8,000 Ghana cedis to aid the enlistment into the police service. The fake letters given to these prospective applicants bore the original police seal and signatures of the head of police HRD, Commissioner of Police, Patrick Timbila. The victim spoke exclusively to Joy News on today's big story.
Yes, she assures us that she's not frauding, it's not a scam. We should believe her. Even I met her sometime and she confirmed to me that we will still go upon all what is happening. She said we will go. So we shouldn't worry and stay calm.
Did everybody pay 5,000?
Yes, some pay more, 8,000, the graduates.
Oh, I'm curious. So those who are graduates paid 8,000 in order to get enlistment into the police service.
Yes.
And all this went to that single person whose account you paid the money into.
Yes.
So have you heard from the other people?
Yeah. We met some like 3 days ago. And
so all of you are from Boko?
We are some are from Tamale, Boliga, All the 3 northern regions.
So which part of Boko exactly? Boko Central, Boko East, Boko West,
Boko East.
Zabela, Bongo.
Yeah.
Where exactly?
Zabela.
So
yes.
you have. So how many people in all do you know that paid this money to?
Yeah, my friends per se, we are about 10. They came and stayed in my small room in Accra here. And most of them are graduates? Yes. And you are not? So they paid 8,000. How did they raise the money? How did you raise your 5,000? Yeah, I work under company. I'm a designer. So you work and you save money? Yeah, I save money to open my own shop. So I use that money too. But 2,000? Why would you pay to go into the police service? Didn't your uncle tell you that you don't need to pay in order to get into the police service? No. He told me they were going to use that money to train us. There's no money in the country, so I believe it.
Meanwhile, security analyst Dr. Kwesi Ening, who also spoke on the show a while ago, said the magnitude of problems facing the police service can only be solved through the collective effort of every Ghanaian who has the nation's security at heart. 2 men alone, or these 2 individuals alone, could not have perpetrated this crime. But how did they get access to the letterhead? Did they learn how to sign Mr. Timberlake's signature over time? Or were the signatures scanned? So, I mean, there are lots of questions that cannot just be brushed aside with this decision that, well, we have suspended recruitment and we are not going to, or we are going to establish a committee. I will appeal to Honorable Fritz Baffo that I think the parliamentary committee will have to invite the police back. There will have to be a further conversation, and I think there will have to be something more to assure the public, that the police are on the public side. They are on the public side. Let's not forget that there have been instances where officers or policemen or police personnel have rented their guns out, have rented their uniforms out, for a fee, to people who have a criminal background. So when these things do happen, people get frustrated. People wonder, when will this end? And I think the onus is on the service, and particularly for those of us who love the service, to help to bring this under control. Elsewhere, the WA police have rounded up 15 suspected criminals at KJ Sports in the WA municipality of the Upper West region. The suspects, aged between 20 and 60, were arrested at a popular drinking spot with substances suspected to be Indian hemp. Rafiq Salam reports from WA.
The WA police embarked on a swoop at Kojugara Sport, also known as KG Sport, to apprehend perpetrators of criminal activities in the area. 15 suspected criminals were arrested in the swoop, aged between 20 and 60. Substance suspected to be Indian hemp were found on some of them.
Officers who are supposed to make sure that we create the enabling environment for people to move about their duties without any fear or intimidation, we decided to step up our activities. And upon a tip-off, we were able to run off these criminals. Some of them were found with substance suspected to be Indian hemp, which is in our custody. And like I said, that is why we are going to use all these things just to get to those who are directly involved with any criminal activity. Definitely, it is not everybody that is going to be involved, that is going to be prosecuted, but some will definitely be prosecuted.
DCOP Mensa Duku said an identification parade will be organized and those found culpable will face the full rigors of the law. Although the region has recorded some loss of lives due to criminal activities and injuries, the Upper West Police Regional Commander debunked the notion that the region was becoming unsafe and a den for criminals. He described current happenings, with particular reference to the robbery attacks on the Kujuperi-Wahabu Road, as an isolated incident.
Upper West region is not like that. It is just quite recently that we started experiencing these criminal activities. But we've intensified our activities. That stretch of land, there's no police activities on the road. So now what we decided is that we are going to pitch camp in those areas that have been experiencing these robberies. And I believe with the police presence there, all these things will minimize. But all the same, we need the support of the locals. We need their support. They are there with those who are committing those crimes. So they should be prepared to assist the police so that we'll be able to nip the bad, all those who are doing all these things.
Meanwhile, a 38-year-old driver of Obri Lotteries, Daniel Martin, was shot dead last night between Fian and Busia in the Dafiama-Busia Isa district. He was killed behind the steering wheel of a double-cabin old Nissan with registration number UW2111 he was driving.
Policy think tank Imani Ghana has criticized government for diverting funds earmarked for certain projects to pay salaries and emoluments. The think tank also says it conducted research between 2009 and 2013, which shows though government spent various budgeted amounts on various projects, the actual targets were not achieved. Emmanuel Bodi-Mensah has more on the latest findings.
What we are arguing for is that, no, you said you planned for this project, you costed it, and now you have allocated this amount of money, which compares favorably to your cost projections. But you have not achieved the target. So what happened? What happened to the project? To us, two implications. Either you underestimated your cost, or you are not being efficient in the implementation of the project.
Which projects or targets specifically would you say that government failed to achieve with the budgets that it put out to?
If you look at the health sector medium-term development plan, it set out 5 pillars that they intend to achieve by 2013. They projected the cost for it, and two costs evolved. That's the conservative scenario and the ambitious scenario. And they look at the actual expenditure that was expended. I mean, it comes close to these figures, but the target, the pillars were not achieved. And if you look at under 5 mortality rate, has not been achieved. If you look at the last year, the cholera cases that we reported, it was very abysmal. And looking at what we are spending on health sector, should be able to fight cholera.
Interior Minister Marco Yongo says Ghanaians must find innovative ways of getting their grievances addressed instead of resorting to demonstrations at the least provocation, explaining that the numerous demonstrations put Ghana in a bad light. He was speaking exclusively to Joy News' AM show host, Mamavi Owusu-Abuaje.
Yeah. Let's come to the issue of demonstrations. We've seen a series of it. There was one today. There are more planned for the future. What kind of security risk do these demonstrations pose?
I think that these demonstrations pose a security threat, because if you imagine the number of policemen we deploy to shepherd those demonstrations is huge. We waste a lot of man-hours, resources. Let me say resources. Look at the vehicles, the human resources, and I think that, we need to find ways, innovative ways of registering our protests.
What other ways would you prescribe when the people feel they're so frustrated or they have something within them that they want to voice out? How else can they do it?
They can do it through press conferences. Because I don't think that...
Will that carry the same effect as demonstrations?
Now, if you demonstrate, that's why I was asking the other correspondents. We had a demonstration on Dumso. What results did we get?
Well, isn't it putting some kind of pressure on government?
Government has already outlined what it's going to do and it's giving you timelines that by December.
The international media covered it. And that means that other people know about our problems, our frustrations. That would put a lot more pressure on government, wouldn't you say?
Oh, no, I don't think so. Because government has already given the outline. I said, look, between now and December, we are doing this, the budgets, which people are investing in the generation, and we're hoping that by this time, water levels in the rivers will also go up, and then government has already, government cannot do magic now to address the energy crisis. It has already outlined, measures it's taking to address the situation. So even if you demonstrate 1 million times, the situation cannot be eased immediately. you have to still wait for the government program. And I was telling the other this, it doesn't look as if, I mean, people think that it is only Ghana which is going through this. I was in South Africa.
Theirs is not as intense as ours.
Theirs is not as intense. How do you know?
I did experience it because I was in South Africa recently as well.
Yes, and the provinces, they also have power curtailments.
Well, still to come in the bulletin, fishermen at New Takrady in the Western region question delay in commissioning a cold store built in the area in June last year. And then several Ghanaian ambassadors and head of missions abroad have been indicted for embezzlement and causing financial loss. We'll bring you those details after the break. Stay tuned. Several Ghanaian ambassadors and heads of missions abroad have been indicted for embezzlement and causing financial loss by the Auditor General. According to the report, several of the country's ambassadors abroad have either allegedly embezzled money, misappropriated funds, or caused financial loss. Evans Mensah has gone through the report and is joining me in the studio for further discussions. Good evening to you, Evans. You've read the document. What exactly is it saying?
Well, let's take some of the missions specifically. Let's talk about the Berlin mission, for example. The Auditor General talks about embezzlement of some 33,295 euros, and that amount of money they collected. No, some of the consulates, all the consulates, in fact, they process visas for people who want to travel to Ghana, etc. And they collect fees. Once you collect those fees, you need to pay into a certain account because it belongs to the state and not an individual. But the Auditor General found that between 2009 January and January 2010, a total amount of 23,000 euros, for example, was collected by the consulate, but never paid into the account. In fact, the Auditor General goes on to recommend that this particular head of mission should be sanctioned legally. Legal action must be taken against this particular head of mission. You go to Tehran, the Tehran mission, similar. The Islamabad consulate, they were supposed to pay $12,144 visa fees they've collected. Again, that amount can be found. Same recommendation, sanction them. There's an interesting one, slightly different, where one of the head of mission, for example, managed to collect child allowances illegally for 17 months. Again, that is an issue that the Auditor General had pointed out. One of the things that fascinated me, though, is the fact that this is coming at a time when most of the missions, some of the missions, in fact, were complaining that they were not getting funds to pay rent, and some of them had either been evicted or were being evicted.
Okay. Could it be then that probably they took these funds so they could pay their own rent?
It doesn't appear so, because, for example, there's a case in Tel Aviv and the Lusaka missions where the Controller and Accountant General transferred a total of 304,000 euros. However, before the money hit the account, the money was short by some 12,000 euros. And nobody knows how that happened. Somebody managed to intercept the money, according to the Auditor General, and withdrew that amount over several months. And although that was spotted by the head of the mission, they never reported it. And again, it's raised a lot of questions as far as the Auditor General is concerned.
Okay, forgive me, but I'm not shocked by the amounts we're talking about here, because here in Ghana we're used to millions. But then, interestingly, the figures we're hearing about here, 34,000 euro, is there some, other huge amounts somewhere in there?
I get the point. I mean, that's a reaction you get because you're so used to the millions and the billions.
Yeah, usually when we hear that some money has been embezzled,
well, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Yes. Well, those are the amounts that
I want
the
you
figures.
to shock me.
Well, you have to ask the Attorney General, the Auditor General, to do so. But these are the figures that the Auditor General is putting out as in some of the irregularities and embezzlement of funds. It's small, you say, compared to what we are used to, but nonetheless, it's still embezzlement of public funds and criminal.
No doubt, no doubt. All right, thank you very much, Evans Mensah, giving us the details of the Auditor General's report talking about embezzlement of foreign missions abroad. Back home in Ghana, former First Lady Nana Akufo-Addo is calling for grassroots participation in the governance system to hold leadership accountable. She says continued apathy of the citizenry in governance will not only breed non-performing and unaccountable leadership, but also development at the local level. Nana Konadu Ajama-Rawlings was speaking at a governance forum organized by the Community Organization Bureau Network of Ghana and the Development Women Movement in Kumasi.
Through the civil society groups, the National Democratic Party hopes to sensitize Ghanaians in a nationwide campaign aimed at encouraging public participation in local development through participation. Nana Konadu Ajama-Rawlings, who is also the leader of the National Democratic Party, revealed leadership has failed to be accountable because the citizenry has been unable to play its watchdog role.
We must tell ourselves that we want Ghana to work with special emphasis on integrity, and all of us, you see, we are all involved. We are all involved, and you work primary school, we are all involved. You cannot be involved when you leave your leader to do what he likes. Then you are not involved, you are sitting back and watching him. It is a passion. Now, you decide, say,
the former First Lady is unhappy that District Assembly concept has lost its core mandate of promoting decentralized local governance and development. According to her, after more than 20 years in operation, if development at the grassroots level is still being centralized, it undermines the objectives of the process of empowering locals.
"20 students from various senior high schools have received the President's Independence Day Awards at a ceremony in Accra. For the first time, the recipients also got a tablet computer as part of the prize package.
Award aims at becoming a medical doctor.
Each of the 20 award recipients got a prize package which included a tablet computer, 700 Ghana cedis, and a scholarship to cover their senior high school education.
You know that the government of Ghana, your teachers, the non-teaching staff of their school, your family, your friends, your neighbors, everyone has played a role that has resulted in today's ceremony. Do remember to continue to make yourselves and them even more proud through the way you carry on from this point. I entreat you also to share your knowledge with your classmates. You remain sources of inspiration to many students who have not been able to make it today. But by sharing, you bring many more students up with you.
We need to instill the idea of unity in our youth, as this helps to form character. And character is an important factor that influences national peace and stability. This government has demonstrated a commitment to education by introducing policies and interventions to improve access, enhance equity, and guarantee quality of education for children of school-going age. That is why the complementary basic education program has been introduced to ensure that out-of-school children are guided back into the formal education system. Currently, about 24,000 out-of-school children in the 4 northern regions, that's Brong-Ahafo, Northern Region, Upper East, and Upper West, have been enrolled in the program. In the academic year that we are currently in, we expect to extend the program to the remaining regions of the country. In the next 3 years, we plan to steer over 120,000 children into the formal education school system.
The students were selected for academic performance, co-curricular activities, and moral standards.
This award is only going to motivate me to achieve greater heights.
I've been raised to a status because now I was somebody nowhere. I competed with so many people. Definitely some people might be better than me, but God has granted me the blessing. He has blessed me to this level. Now I have things, I've made a gap. So it will be difficult for them to break the gap now.
The 20 students who were conferred with the President's Award were selected from all regions, a boy and girl from each region.
Now, Ghana's Independence Day parade on March 6 last year was a total washout after a heavy downpour left the contingent, including school children, drenched. Now, there was this image captured by my journalist David Ando showing the children and the president being lashed by the rain that will stay forever with me. The meteorological agency came in for a lot of bashing for failing to accurately predict the storm. So today, on the eve of the 2015 anniversary, I decided to visit the Meteo office to get the Independence Day weather forecast firsthand. All right, by just looking up into the sky and the way the clouds are formed, you can tell that it's likely to rain. But that's not the professional way to do it. And they're professionals who do it. They're here at the Ghana Meteorological Agency on the 3rd floor. We're just going to go up there to find out whether we can expect rain tomorrow. So let's go in. Thankfully, I've set my eyes on the man I'm looking for, the weatherman who's going to be telling me or giving me all the information about what is likely to happen tomorrow.
I'm Joe Tetekotufi. Currently, I'm the acting officer in charge.
We want to know, first of all, are we likely to have rain, or what the weather is going to be like tomorrow at the Independence Day parade? You know, especially because of what happened last year and we'll come to that, what happened last year, right? I want to know what happened, what's going to happen tomorrow.
Currently, we are experiencing some turbulence over the high grounds and then the forest areas, which is giving us rain. But for tomorrow, looking at our charts, to start with, let's look at what happens 3 days today.
Okay.
Yes, from here we could see that the winds are blowing from northeast. They are northeasterly winds, which are very, very dry, coming in, and then when they get here, they converge here. So in this area, we are expecting to get some isolated cases of rain showers.
Okay.
This area, the northern part of the country, is very, very dry. With very dry.
It will remain dry.
It will remain dry for tomorrow with very low humidity. The mid portions will also remain very dry, but with an increased humidity. But when it comes to the coast, that is for 3 days today. This is yesterday.
Okay.
You could see that it's the same, almost the same thing with a low here. Then when we come to today, as we are experiencing now,
yeah,
it is still dry. This is the intertropical boundary, meaning the dry wind and the moist wind are meeting around this area. They are converging. Yes, okay. They are converging around this area. When we come to the eastern coast, that is where we are having activities. Currently, there is a low sitting down here, and this low is giving us a lot of activities over Somanya, Dodowa, Akuse, Kofur, Diaho, and Itevarons.
Okay. Is that what explains the cloudiness we see in the sky right now?
Perfectly. So when we look at what happens today and what will happen tomorrow, there will not be much difference. So from tomorrow morning, over the coastal areas, we'll be experiencing some few clouds will be forming in the morning. That will give way to...
In the morning?
In the morning.
Around what time?
From 6 a.m. going. Okay. We'll experience some low clouds, few clouds. And then after 9, 10 going, the sun will pierce in and then the sunshine will also come in. If there will be anything along the coast, which we are not expecting, it will only be after 3 p.m.
Oh, okay.
Yes. But over the mountainous areas and forest areas, from 12:30 to 2 p.m. going, there will be activities developing over those areas.
All right. So for Accra, should anything happen at all for Accra, you're saying it should be from 3 p.m.
Yeah.
But for the mountainous areas, you say it should be around 12:30. Okay. So you can confidently tell us tomorrow that the Independence Parade will be dry. There'll be no rain.
Perfectly.
And you're sure about that?
I'm very sure. 80% sure.
80% sure. Yes. So there's a 20% chance that it may rain.
That one is probability. My probability is 80%.
Okay.
Perfectly. And 80% probability is so high as 100%.
What happened last year that we had the president and all the children who were on parade being drenched in rain? Is it that you couldn't give them those probabilities?
Yes, actually what happened that day, on that very particular day, we have certain institutions like the Air Force, the Police Service, NADBU, that are on our radar, that we issued with them this kind of weekly, and then we give them daily weather reports, and we also issued weather warnings.
So they were notified?
Those people were notified.
A few things I've learned whilst here is the fact that because we're having some rain-bearing clouds, you know, the fact that we're having some downpour today, will have a bearing on what happens tomorrow. That, for instance, correct me, that because we've had rain today, it sucks out the moisture from the system, and so it means tomorrow you can't expect rain immediately tomorrow, but sometime later.
You are perfectly right.
Okay.
Perfectly, you are right.
At this point, are you going to give me a PhD for weather forecasting?
I'll give to the person who cater for you.
All right, so Mr. Porthofi has taken us through the weather, and we know, and the president can be assured, that he's not going to be drenched tomorrow, even though he's been taken care of. And the children, too, will be just fine. So let's look out for tomorrow, and if it rains, then we can come and hold Mr. Porthofi responsible. Indeed, if it rains, we'll go and hold Mr. Porthofi, because we don't want this to happen. You see, this image was from last year, and we don't want that to happen. Now, independence anniversary celebrations are meant to highlight achievements over a period of time. Ghana has been doing just that for the past 58 years, even though the country is still struggling to cater for its citizens. With the country reeling under a weakening economy, one of Ghana's first female MPs has suggested that the commemorations should be focused more on the challenges confronting the nation. So on the eve of independence, my colleague Emmanuel Ante hit the streets and asked some Ghanaians about what they feel we have to celebrate as an independent nation.
This is the Independence Square, the venue for the celebration of Ghana's 58 years anniversary. Now, tomorrow, a lot of people will gather here to join in the celebration, including the security agencies, students, pupils, and dignitaries, both local and international. Well, but one thing has been bothering my mind, though, and that is, what has Ghana got to show for in its 58 years of existence? That is the question I will be asking some of you, the general public, to tell me your opinion. Join me to town as we speak to some of them. Ghana is 58 years old, and do we really have something to show for in this 58 years of existence?
Well, if you ask me, I don't see what there is to celebrate about, because our performance so far has been very mediocre. There's nothing that we have really done that should make us be joyful, and for that matter, say that it is time for us to eat food and drink. I mean, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of money, and so many other things. Because when you achieve something, that is when you can make noise about it and you can celebrate. But if you look at the state of the economy and the attitude towards work, the attitude of government towards, the plight of the people and so many other things, I don't see what one has to celebrate about. So if one should take money out of the coffers of a country and say we are celebrating, then I think we should look at it again.
Yes, I would say we have so many things to show for it. One might say development is very slow, but at least there is some form of development. Talk about electricity, water. There are some places which didn't have water but now has water. Some places which didn't have electricity but now has electricity. I'll say the pace for development is very slow, but yet we have a cause to celebrate. As individuals, when your birthday is due, you celebrate it, although you have not met so many of your achievements. It's a milestone, and I think it's worth celebrating.
To me, I don't think it's worth celebrating, because after 58 years of independence and we are still sleeping in darkness, the leaders must at least see to it that things are put in place, and the various infrastructures that needs to be put in place, and for us to stop sleeping in this darkness.
Celebration, we can't say it shouldn't happen, because it's a normality. Whether achievement is done or not, that celebration needs to take place, because that is 1957. 1957 in the history of Ghana is a remarkable day and needs to be celebrated.
Right, we'll bring you business next with Abigail. Celebrate. It's like a bed. Right, so it's time now for business. You caught me chit-chatting with Abigail, but Abigail is here to do the business. Before she goes on with the business, I just want to find out from you, like the question that was asked, independence, we're 58 years tomorrow, is it worth celebrating?
Well, I think that Ghana is growing slowly, but the problem is that when we move one step forward, we move like 3 steps back or even more. But we should still celebrate because, I mean, we've chalked some 1 or 2 achievements. Yeah. Even though there's more to be done.
Anyway, so like a birthday you celebrate?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you about your age. You just carry on.
Please don't. Okay, it's now time to get you updated in the world of business. My name is Abigail Adomakoinchi, and the Center, or Africa Center for Energy Policy, ASAP, has described the 250 megawatts power plant government is securing from Dubai as the worst deal. Executive Director of ASAP, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, told Joy News the move is crisis procurement and will not give Ghana value for money. He says Ghana will pay $700 million over a 5-year period before ownership is granted to government, while it could be brought outright at $220 million.
There are many emergency power budgets around the world. We should have even done open and competitive bidding, so that emergency power, owners who want to supply, they can come and compete. And we select the one that will give us favorable terms. There are other people who also want to line up their pocket, so they ambush the leader, okay? And so this, ambush procurement or crisis procurement that we do will not give us value for money. And that is what we are seeing. For instance, the Dubai plants we are bringing, 250 megawatt, will be the worst ever project we will bring on in terms of cost and lack of value for money. We are supposed to pay $120 million every year for the lease of the plant for 5 years. $16 million every year for maintenance and operation. And that gives you about $136 million a year. And so for 5 years during which it will be leased to us, we will pay a total of about $700 million before the ownership is transferred to us. Yet if you go to buy it outright, it will cost you $220 million to buy it. So why will Ghana go on a lease arrangement for 5 years before ownership if it will take some $100 million for us, instead of going to buy them outright for 220? Some people have argued that government may not have all the money at a go. But if you cannot have, 220 million to buy the 10 units that they are bringing, they are containerized units, each 25 megawatt, and that the 10 units give us the 250 megawatt. If you cannot have 222 million to go and buy, yet you have 136 million to pay for 1 year, that could have fetched you about 6 of the units. And so in 2 years, the money we will use to pay for the lease would have given us more than 10 units.
Now, the Ghana Shippers Authority says over 1,896 users outside Ghana have already registered to use the Advanced Shipment Information ASHI system, and Ghana is therefore calling on government to speed up the implementation process. Head of Public Relations at the Ghana Shippers Authority, Fred Esiedudate, reiterates ASHI is necessary to minimize corruption at the ports.
This briefing highlighted the importance of the advanced shipment information and why it is necessary for Ghana to implement the process without further delays.
There is no agency in Ghana today or no system today that receives information or shipment information ahead of vessel arrival in Ghana. There is no such institution, not one, because we are saying that we are bringing a certain transparency into the system, and we've heard it. For heaven's sake, we are a state institution. We want the system to work for everybody, not a system that works for only a few people, and that is what we are about. And so if we are bringing systems that will work for everybody and people are accusing and they think that we are working against them, then that should be it. But we believe that in the long run, it's going to benefit all of them, and that is what we stand for. So we cannot condone things that are not correct.
The Ghana Shippers Authority also adds the process will prevent unnecessary intrusive inspection, which is usually the case at the ports.
If your goods arrive in the port and you are unable to clear them in 7 days, you go on demurrage. You will pay demurrage. So within 7 days, if you're unable to clear your goods, then what it means, you go into demurrage. What we did as an organization that promotes and protects the interest of the shipper was to engage the shipping lines and said, look, this is the situation we have on hand. Could we not, for instance, extend so that everybody has 14 days, for instance? And then they said the boxes, the containers, don't belong in most cases to the shipping lines. They also rent them. So if I rent a container and I put in your goods and I give you 7 days and you want 14 days, who pays for the rent charge for the container for the extra 7 days you are requesting? That therefore meant that we needed to maximize what activities we can do before the vessel even arrives at the port. So you can understand the fundamentals of ASHI.
Government has, however, indefinitely suspended the implementation of the process. Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Kweku Rekes Hagan, disclosed this to Joy Business Wednesday. The Ghana Shippers Authority, however, says it is yet to receive an official notification from government on the suspension of ASHI. The implementation of the process was scheduled to commence in April 2015 after it had been shifted twice. Etonam say, Joy News.
So we'll still bring you updates on what's happening with ASHI and Jacob. But away from that to oil. Oil exploration giant ExxonMobil has announced that it is cutting new explorations and budget for this year. The move has been influenced by the recent decline in prices of crude oil. It is, however, not clear for now whether this will affect the firm's plan to start oil exploration in Ghana very soon. There is more in the following report. Latest oil firm to cut its budget substantially for this year after firms like Shell, Chevron and BP, as well as other oil service providers like Halliburton and Baker Hughes, made a similar move following the about 60% drop in prices of crude oil. However, for some industry players, the announcement by ExxonMobil might come across as bad news for Ghana, especially at the time when Exxon, the largest oil and gas firm in the world, is working to secure oil blocks in Ghana for exploration. A development that has been confirmed by Chief Executive of GNPC, Alex Mould, who actually says that the talks have come very far. However, there are fears that ExxonMobil's disclosure could compound fears that the country could witness some serious job cuts. Chief Executive of the Petroleum Commission, Theophilus Ashwing, however, explains the situation will differ.
There are about 2 or 3 major projects that are lined up. One of them being the 10. 10 is actually about beginning this year has been about 50% complete, and it's still going on. A major project despite oil price, which is good news. The other project is the ENI offshore Cape 3 Points project. About $6 billion project. It was sanctioned, the POD was approved before the oil prices started going down, and the partnership is very committed to continue work. The projects that are coming on are the things that employ the people. So if you manage to, for example, sign your major projects like we have done in Ghana before the oil prices go down, instead of actually seeing an overall decrease in employment, what you're going to get is an increase in employment. And hopefully by the time the development is over, you hope that oil prices will come up for the state to...
For many, Exxon's entry will not only lead to other giants like Chevron and BP coming to Ghana to work because of the signals it sent, but also to transform the entire oil and gas industry. In other news, fishermen in New Takoradi want government to immediately commission a cold store built in the area. In his State of the Nation address last week, President John Mahama mentioned the New Takoradi cold store is one of the 6 that had been constructed across the country. Journey's checks have revealed that although the cold store was completed in June 2014, it is yet to be commissioned for use. Assemblyman for New Takoradi, Emmanuel Edwin Adoko, tells Joy News several reasons account for the delay.
The cold store will make our work more efficient. The fishes usually go bad because of the erratic power supply. If we have a cold store around this place, our work will be much easier.
Because of light of no one want to, and
And that'll be all for business. I'm Abigail Adumakwenji. Sports comes up next.
So we apologize for the loss in sound, and now we can begin sports. And Ghana Football Association President Kwesi Nyantakyi has exclusively told Joy Sports Premier League clubs in the country are likely to fulfill the requirements of the FIFA club licensing before the deadline elapses. Confederation of African Football, in collaboration with FIFA, expects clubs to possess the qualities of true professional clubs. They are concerned Ghanaian clubs are lacking behind and might not meet the targets, but GFA President Nyantakyi thinks otherwise.
The club licensing regulations are built on 5 thematic areas. We have the legal requirements, we have the financial requirements, we have the infrastructure, we have the sporting requirements, and then we have the administration. Clubs are supposed to be incorporated either as companies limited by guarantee or by shares. That one has been fulfilled, so it gives every club a legal character. You can sue and be sued, and it also gives you the legal status to enter into contracts with your players and third parties. The sporting requirement requires all clubs to have a certain caliber of personnel in your coaching department. So each club is supposed to have youth coaches and then coaches for your senior team. You also need to have a certain caliber of people in your medical setup, like a trained masseur.
All right, let's talk some table tennis now. And Chief Head Coach of the Ghana Table Tennis Association, Ansa Owusu, says the ongoing National League will keep players fit and also in shape ahead of the upcoming competitions. High-profile table tennis players in the country are participating in a domestic league for the first time at the Accra Sports Stadium daily. Coach Owusu tells Joy Sports the development will keep table tennis players in top shape all season.
Coach, I'm so much excited about the level of performance that they are displaying here. Looking at the crop of players that we've assembled, it looks as if we'll be able to gather almost all our top players from the security services and, clubs also coming in to register. And looking at the status of the players, it tells you the level of respect which table tennis has gained so far. One may like to know why this very exercise. This year is an All-African Games year. And table tennis, we don't go in for qualification to the Olympic Games. This will serve as the qualification to the Olympic Games. So we need actually to ensure that we keep our players active till September. And as I told you, This competition will travel 12 weeks. After the 12 weeks, we've lined up series of competition that will ensure that we put them in shape before the All-African Games.
Back to football, but disturbing news on the continent, and 5 Kano Pillars players have been shot by gunmen in an attack on the club's entourage as they traveled to Owerri for the start of the new Nigerian Premier League season. The gunmen also snatched handsets and other valuables from the players. Saturday's match against Heartland has been postponed indefinitely. It's not the first time it's happening. It's been happening a number of times in Nigeria, and this is not just good news for them as they prepare for the new season, the Nigerian Premier League. From Nigeria to Senegal now, Aliou Cisse has been appointed new Senegal coach. The former international midfielder has been appointed the coach of the country's football federation, of the country football's national team, and of course by the country's football federation. And they revealed that in a statement. The 38-year-old who won 35 caps for Senegal has signed a 4-year contract to be reviewed after the 2017 Africa Cup of Nations. He takes over from Alain Giresse, who left after the recent Nations Cup. Cisse has had spells as Senegal assistant coach and also a part of the coaching team for the 2012 Olympics. And you remember him so much well with what happened in the 2012 African Cup of Nations. Not only that as well, we saw him play very well when Senegal were in the World Cup for 2002, lightning and everything. That'll be all for sports tonight. I'm George Adi Jr. Israel will join us with some more. You have a good night.
Students at the All Nations University in Koforidua have been thrown into mourning following the death of one of their colleagues. 22-year-old Benedicta Edu fell from the 4th floor of a building on campus. She was reportedly going through a religious service to allegedly deliver her from evil spirits. Police have opened investigations into the incident. Eastern Regional Minister Ntwi Boesiako, who visited the All Nations University after the incident became public, had this to say.
I was just relying on what they told me and the family. But I was told that the police have come and they have started their investigation. So I will wait for the police investigation report. So that is the only one which can tell us authentically. And also the doctor's report. So I'm just saying that I'm here to sympathize with the family and the school authorities, because what happened was a tragic accident, and as a government we are concerned. I've been told that I didn't go there to the top because but I've been told by the school authorities that it is out of bounds to students, and that they have a watchman guarding the place. So I believe that I believe that the school authorities will have to do what it takes to police the place. And I think that we will not countenance another accident like that again. That will be the relation of duty. So I believe that they will take that into consideration. Don't find their way there.
A rather sad way to end the bulletin, but that's it. Before we go, a quick run through our top stories. 2 police officers have been arrested as investigations into a major recruitment scam continue. We've been speaking to one of the victims. Former First Lady Nana Konadu Adjuman-Rawlings has called for grassroots participation in the governance system so leadership can be held accountable. 20 senior high school students have been awarded the President's Independence Day Award. Meanwhile, the Ghana Meteorological Agency is assuring a rain-free Independence Parade tomorrow. And a 22-year-old university student said to be undergoing spiritual deliverance has fallen to a death from the 4th floor of one of the buildings on campus. That's it. My name is Rizzola. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good evening.
is Joy News Prime.